Northern Greece is a part of the country often overlooked by travelers. And before our visit, we didn't know a great deal about it either. We'd done plenty of research before setting off, and knew it offered spectacular mountains, traditional villages, and a beautiful coastline. But what we didn't fully appreciate until we experienced it ourselves was how all of those things came together to create one of our favorite road trips in Europe. So in this video, we're answering the questions we think every first-time visitor should consider before planning a trip to northern Greece, based on what we learned during our own journey. For many travelers, Greece is synonymous with island holidays. Our trip through northern Greece showed us another side of the country. One of dramatic mountain landscapes, traditional villages, crystal clear rivers, and spectacular coastal scenery. It's a region that rewards curiosity, whether that means exploring historic towns, hiking through breathtaking landscapes, enjoying local food, or simply taking the scenic route between destinations. For us, what makes northern Greece so special is its incredible variety. Within just a few days, we went from the lively streets of Thessaloniki to centuries-old monasteries surrounded by spectacular mountain landscapes. What stood out throughout our journey was how closely nature and culture seemed to exist alongside one another. Monasteries clung to towering cliffs. Centuries-old stone villages sat quietly among the mountains, and historic bridges crossed rivers that still felt wonderfully wild and unspoiled. The contrasts could be remarkable. One day, we were navigating remote mountain roads through the rugged landscapes of Tzoumerka. A few days later, we were wandering through the colorful seaside town of Parga. From there, we were soon out on the Ionian Sea, cruising past hidden caves and swimming in brilliant turquoise water. That constant change became one of our favorite things about traveling through northern Greece. The distances weren't enormous, yet every few days seemed to bring an entirely different landscape, atmosphere, and experience. We spent 10 days traveling through northern Greece, and for a first visit, it felt like a really good amount of time. We started with just 24 hours in Thessaloniki before heading out on the road, as we wanted this trip to take us through as many different sides of the region as possible. From there, we had time to explore the monasteries of Meteora, travel through the remote mountains of Tzoumerka, slow down along the coast around Parga, and spend several days discovering the traditional villages of Zagori and Vikos Gorge. Of course, 10 days will only ever give you a taste of what northern Greece has to offer. There was plenty more we could have explored, and we certainly wouldn't hesitate to come back. But for us, it was enough time to experience an incredible variety of places, without feeling as though we were simply rushing from one to the next. For us, late May into early June turned out to be an excellent time to explore northern Greece. We wanted to spend plenty of time outdoors, particularly hiking, but also hoped it would be warm enough to enjoy the beaches and go swimming. Visiting before the height of summer gave us a really good balance. We enjoyed plenty of sunshine and warm days, while temperatures were still generally comfortable enough for exploring on foot. We experienced this firsthand on the Vradeto steps in Zagori. While parts of the trail offered some welcome shade, the historic stone path itself was largely exposed to the sun. Even at the beginning of June, we could really feel the heat radiating from the stones as we climbed. It was still manageable for us, but it certainly made us appreciate why we had chosen to travel before the height of summer. There were other advantages too. We encountered relatively few crowds in many places, and traveling outside the peak summer season also meant more favorable prices for both accommodation and our rental car. Of course, weather is never guaranteed, and we may simply have been lucky with some of the beautiful sunny days. But for a trip that combined hiking, sightseeing, and time by the water, late spring worked wonderfully for us. For the kind of trip we had in mind, having a car was essential. Northern Greece covers a largely mountainous area, and many of the places we wanted to explore were well away from the larger towns and cities. This was particularly true in places like Tzoumerka, Zagori, and the Acheron River. Driving across the remote Mparos Pass, or reaching some of the villages and trailheads around Vikos Gorge would have been very difficult without our own transport. Having a car also gave us the freedom to stop whenever something caught our attention, which happened surprisingly often on some of those spectacular mountain roads. That doesn't mean you need a car everywhere though. Popular destinations such as Meteora are much easier to visit without one. With organized tours and other transport options available for reaching the monasteries. And within the larger cities, like Thessaloniki, having a car isn't really necessary at all. But if you're hoping to explore northern Greece beyond its main towns and attractions, particularly its mountains, villages, and more remote landscapes, we found that traveling by car gave us by far the greatest freedom and flexibility. When planning a road trip through northern Greece, we'd recommend allowing a little more time between destinations than the distances on the map might suggest. Once you head into the mountains, roads become narrower and more winding, and relatively short distances can take longer than expected. But some of those drives were also among the most beautiful parts of our trip, so we rarely felt the need to rush them. For us, it worked well to move through the region gradually, rather than trying to cover everything from one base. We started in Thessaloniki, traveled south to Meteora, continued through the mountains of Tzoumerka, and then made our way towards the coast at Parga, before eventually basing ourselves in Ioannina for the final part of the trip. We also found that choosing the right bases made a big difference. Sometimes that meant staying somewhere that was a destination in its own right. Parga gave us a beautiful place to slow down for a few days, while still being well positioned to explore the surrounding coastline and take a boat trip across to Paxos. At other times, convenience mattered more. We chose Ioannina largely for its location, as it gave us easy access to Zagori, Vikos Gorge, and the surrounding area without having to pack up and move accommodation every day. And while the city itself wasn't the main focus of our trip, we still found little places we really enjoyed, including a roadside coffee truck where breakfast was so good that we came back the next morning. Ultimately, there's no single route that will work for everyone. Northern Greece offers far more than you could comfortably fit into one trip. So we'd suggest choosing the places that interest you most, finding a few well-positioned bases along the way, and leaving enough time to enjoy the journey between them. With so much variety across northern Greece, what you choose to prioritize will really depend on the kind of experience you're looking for. If you enjoy history, food, and the energy of a lively city, Thessaloniki is a wonderful place to begin. From there, Meteora offers something completely different. You can spend a day exploring its magnificent monasteries, or experience the landscape from another perspective by hiking beneath the towering rock formations that surround them. For something wilder and more remote, Tzoumerka takes you deep into the mountains, where dramatic roads, tiny villages, and monasteries hidden among the cliffs make the journey feel like an adventure in itself. Along the Ionian coast, Parga offers a much slower pace, with colorful streets, beautiful coastline, and a historic castle overlooking the sea. It's also a great starting point for heading out onto the water. Whether that's exploring hidden caves and turquoise bays, or taking a trip across to the islands of Paxos or Corfu. Further inland, the Acheron River brings together beautiful nature and ancient mythology, with the unusual experience of walking through its remarkably clear, ice-cold water. And if mountains and hiking are what draw you to northern Greece, Zagori is somewhere you'd certainly want to make time for. Its centuries-old stone villages and bridges are surrounded by spectacular landscapes, while nearby Vikos Gorge offers some of the most dramatic hiking and viewpoints of the entire trip. There really isn't one place we'd describe as the essential northern Greece experience. That's part of what makes the region so rewarding. You can choose the places that suit the way you like to travel and create a journey that feels completely your own. Perhaps the biggest surprise for us was just how much we enjoyed northern Greece. It was our first time in the country, and although we'd researched the trip carefully and knew there was plenty to look forward to, experiencing it for ourselves still exceeded our expectations. Some of our favorite moments came from places that felt wonderfully quiet and remote. We could spend the day driving through dramatic mountain landscapes, wandering through tiny stone villages, or following trails where we encountered very few other people, and then finish the day over a wonderful meal in a local taverna. What also stayed with us was the warmth and hospitality we experienced throughout the trip. Whether we were stopping for a coffee, having breakfast, or sitting down for dinner at the end of a long day, we were made to feel genuinely welcome. These were often very simple encounters, but they added so much to our experience of traveling through the region. There was also a wonderful sense of discovery throughout the journey. Even after 10 days, we never felt as though we'd seen everything Northern Greece had to offer. If anything, the trip left us even more curious about the places we hadn't reached. We came hoping to experience a different side of Greece. We left knowing that Northern Greece was somewhere we'd happily return to. Whether you're still deciding if Northern Greece is the right destination for you, or you're already planning your own itinerary, we hope that these insights have helped answer some of your questions. If you'd like to discover these destinations in more detail, you'll find all of our Northern Greece episodes in the Greece playlist. Until next time, and thanks for traveling with us.